This segment of the obligatory PSU pregame show is brought to you by us. For the Bloggy, visit forthebloggy.com/club to join the FTB Donors Club, the most direct way to support our efforts and receive a custom FTB bottle koozie as a thank you for your donation.
Okay, everybody, we're almost there. Penn State, Oregon, under the lights for the whiteout. We are tired of talking about this game, but we're going to talk about it a little bit more. And what's the best way for you to while away those few remaining hours? With a little more obligatory in your life. God knows I need more of it in mine. But I am glad to be here with our number one scab on the obligatory PSU pregame show, former Penn State offensive lineman Landon Tengwall, having me in your digs this time.
Absolutely. It's an honor to be a scab of the obligatory pregame show. I'll tell you what.
It's a pleasure to have you as our top scab.
No, I'm excited. I can't talk enough Penn State, Oregon at the moment right now. It is, I don't know if there's been a more exciting matchup in a long time, just in terms of the storylines and all the different matchups of offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, and, you know, Drew Al or James Franklin getting over the hump. I mean, there's so many different things. You get the first true, real whiteout for Penn State since you could say Auburn, but really Michigan 2019. It is a great weekend to be a Penn State fan or even an Oregon Duck fan.
I think when you think about the buildup, the circumstances, and the potential implications on the other side of it, I'm going to say it. Biggest game for Penn State football since the 87 Fiesta Bowl. When you put all those ingredients together, any other game I can think of lacks at least one. So like I said, Tengwall, we've been talking about this thing forever because neither one of these teams has played an opponent worth a damn so far. And you have been doing yeoman's work breaking this down both on this, the For the Bloggy YouTube channel, and on your own channel. Check out all Landon's great work over on the Landon Tengwall show on YouTube. And so we thought as we get close to kickoff here, we would dispense with all the general overview stuff, all that narrative stuff we just talked about, and just get into a few nitty-gritty kind of game within the game matchups, give the folks some individual minutia to focus on to determine maybe who comes out with the big win, because this is going to be a matchup of evenly balanced teams, opponents who are worthy of one another. There's a game worthy of that primetime whiteout we've been clamoring for. And the first one that we settled on, and I know you've got a big film study coming out on this gentleman that is hitting the internet as we speak. So you can go check that out on Landon's YouTube channel. Oregon tight end Kenyon Sadiq, and how he's going to match up with Penn State linebacker Tony Rojas.
Yeah, he's Kenyon Sadiq is a superstar. So he is someone that is basically, it feels like he's the body of an offensive tackle. There is no fat on him, though, and he can run block with the best of them. And then you go and you look at some of the rest of his tape, and he is hurdling defenders. He even hurdled Penn State for a touchdown last year in the Big Ten championship. And someone that just presents a matchup nightmare for most defenses, because Oregon comes out with a 2 tight end set, and you say, okay, normally you match that with maybe we bring out another linebacker. We've been running this 4-2-5 with only 2 linebackers, 3 safeties. Well, normally if you say hey, a team wants to run a lot of 2 tight ends, we might go with 3 linebackers. That's hard with Sadiq because then you say, okay, that matches up well in the run game, bringing in Dom DeLuca, take out Zion Tracy. You got an extra 25, 30 pounds there that you're adding onto the defense. But now Sadiq is running a route. And I feel a lot worse with a Dom DeLuca. Or, I mean, even look, Tony Rojas has a lot of speed, and Tony Rojas is great in coverage. That was the one thing that stayed constant last year is, Tony struggled sometimes tackling, but overall in coverage, I mean, he was borderline elite. So I think you look to match Tony up with Sadiq, but you just got to be careful that Will Stein doesn't move him around enough to the point where he gets the matchups that he wants. So I think Jim Knowles is going to game plan around Sadiq. I would say he, outside of Dante Moore, is the most important part of this offense, not only because what he can do in the receiving game where he stretches vertical, they'll do tight end screens, they'll bring him on jet motions and hand the ball off to him. I mean, they'll do everything, but the way they move this guy in the blocking game, he is always pulling on counters when you pull a guard and you might pull a tackle, but they pull their tight ends the most because they can do it. So you got Sadiq, and he is a monster run blocker. Number one thing I want you to be careful of, and something to watch, he likes to hold. And not initially, but he will try to finish guys off when the play is already 10 yards down the field, and when he doesn't need to do it. He's got this affinity for pancakes, and it's gotten him in a little bit of trouble so far. He actually hasn't, I don't think he's gotten a penalty, but there's clear holds on tape. And then on top of that, that kind of mixes in with that. He wants to get into your head. And so there's a lot of times where I see a little extra, like mush someone's head into the ground, a little, drag the nuts across the, you know how that goes. He's basically an offensive lineman. We cannot retaliate against that. You cannot allow Kenyon Sadiq to get in your head because that's what he wants to do. He plays physical football and he goes after the whistle. So definitely a matchup nightmare when you're going to what I think is the best tight end in college football. But if you have to find a way to put Tony Rojas on him, I think that is the number one guy that matches up well, where can probably take him on a little bit better in the run game, but can definitely stick with him vertically on those routes going down the field.
To go back to your point about little extracurricular action at the end of the play, in an emotionally charged environment like we're going to have in the whiteout, and with a game with the stakes of Penn State versus Oregon, these guys are going to be amped up. And I hope that they have been spending some extra time over the last 2 weeks from the bye into this game, drilling into guys' heads that they've got to stay disciplined. I think it's fair to say that one unsportsmanlike conduct penalty was maybe the difference in the game against Ohio State last year.
Elliot Washington went in with the slight, because he was over top of him when he stood up. I still felt like it was a bogus call.
It's a tough call, but you just got to be aware that probably the refs are going to be on the watch for that. And a guy like Sadiq is going to be trying to goad you into it. So let me just throw some numbers at you. Unfortunately, they are PFF numbers. I'm sorry. I know everybody didn't love PFF. I don't love PFF for college especially, but it is what it is. Tony Rojas, currently highest graded pass defender on the Penn State defense, according to PFF College. He is the 16th highest graded linebacker in pass coverage currently, and he finished last season 4th among linebackers over the course of the season. So as you said, maybe some issues with the injury last year in terms of his tackling, but the speed, the athleticism is there. Had a couple of key picks last year, ended that horrific Bowling Green game, finally put that nightmare to an end with a game-clinching interception, and of course the one we all remember, the pick 6 against SMU. So talk to me a little bit more about how number 13 can shut down number 18 when Oregon looks to throw to this superstar tight end. By the way, we just got to establish, yes, we love Kenyon Sadiq. He's a great tight end. I've been reading our comments section. I understand. I also have to say that Tyler Warren is a terrible athlete, was a complete waste of a draft pick by the Indianapolis Colts. I think he's bad. I'm embarrassed that Tyler Warren calls himself a Nittany Lion, so I would never in a million years compare the great, peerless, unparalleled Kenyon Sadiq to the Mackey Award winner from last year.
Oh,
happy now? Y'all happy?
I got to check out the comment section, clearly on Obligatory.
Yeah,
oh, boy.
Great.
Tony Rojas.
I love the comments. Thanks so much for the comments. Yes, sorry.
I think Tony Rojas, he has the athletic ability to stick to Sadiq. My biggest question is, will Tony Rojas take any of the eye candy that Will Stein throws at him? All these motions, all these moving guys around, generally that affects the linebackers the most because they have eyes in the backfield more than everybody else, and they're the closest to the ball. Obviously, the defensive line's the closest, but they go forward no matter what.
Sure.
The linebackers, if you get kind of sucked in one way, just a step, it can be, oh crap, trying to get back the other way. So I think that's the number one thing with Tony Rojas. Can he stay confident in his keys, read them, and as a defender, you have rules. So you have, hey, if this player does X, I have to do Y. And there's that list of rules might be 5, 6 things deep. And that's what Will Stein tries to test and play with. Can Tony Rojas be on top of that? Be that linebacker, that elite linebacker that we know is in there. And we've seen a ton of flashes of. Now it's time to bring it against what I think is one of the best tight ends in college football. And I think there is going to be an emphasis put on this by Will Stein of trying to get these tight ends involved early in the game.
I think important to note that last year in the Big Ten title game, Sadiq did have those 2 touchdowns against Penn State. But and we're running the footage right now. You can see both of those were on busted coverages. Neither one of them was a coverage assignment for Rojas, who spent most of the game matched up against Oregon's number 1 tight end, Terrence Ferguson, who's now in the NFL. He was a 2nd-round pick of the LA Rams. I'm sure just a brilliant, high-value pick for LA. Probably, the Colts are going to look back and think we should have taken that guy instead of number 13.
Well,
I hope you're all happy out there in the comment land. Interesting
fact. I love what we got going on here. Interesting fact about that second touchdown for Sadiq. That was Kobe King was busy throwing up on the field, I believe, when we hit that touchdown, when Oregon hit that touchdown to Sadiq there.
There was a lot of Altoona style pizza going around for both teams.
I will be, as you guys see this, I will have already made my trip to Chili's. I'm going to go scout out Altoona and I'm going to check out what's
Get the
going
man
on.
An endorsement deal, Chili's. Can you please?
Can we?
All right, we're going to move on to our next game within a game right after this.
And what is it?
Bird scooters.
Bird scooters.
So if you watch South Park this week, it was the focus of their episode. They have it in Bloomington, which is the first time I really saw them. It's essentially ride sharing for scooters.
And they're motorized scooters.
It's crazy. It is the craziest thing I've ever seen.
So ride-sharing scooters in a college town.
Right.
Motorized scooters.
What could go wrong?
What could go wrong?
Essentially, these big trucks come in. It's called Birds, the company. It's like based out of California. In the middle of the night, just trucks will come in unannounced to a new town, dump off 10,000 scooters, and get out of town. And you can unlock it with your phone. It's $1 to start it, 15 cents a minute after that. So you can go, like 4 miles for a few bucks.
And then you just dump the scooter.
Dump it anywhere. Dump it on the sidewalk. So the terms and conditions says you don't have to dump it.
Awesome. I love it.
Dump it in a public place out of not obstructing anyone else. But I didn't see a single one that was not obstructing anyone else. And so you have a bunch of drunk college kids driving down the middle of the street, weaving in and out of cars, wearing like heels, the going out clothes.
Who encourages stuff like this? Why would you do that? I mean, I don't get that.
Brought to you by the good folks at Antifragile Brewing Company. Antifragile is the official beer supplier fueling the obligatory pregame show. Antifragile brews incredible beer we all enjoy and recommend. And check out their Moody Culture Kombucha and fill up on Uncle John's Jawn's cheesesteaks. Check them out when you're in Happy Valley at 324 East Calder Way or anytime at antifragilebrew.com. Okay, Tengwall, Penn State, Oregon. Games within the game. We are scraping the absolute bottom of the hashtag content barrel for the folks. But there are still a lot of interesting little minutia, little micro storylines. The play of both quarterbacks is going to be absolutely essential in this game. That's not any, Einstein level analysis. But really, we have not seen the best football out of our third-year starter, former 5-star number 1 overall quarterback in Drew Aller. I don't care about any of that because what you do against FIU and Villanova is less than meaningless. But in order to keep Drew clean and give him time to get the ball downfield to what we've seen with the tight ends, I like what we're seeing from this revamped receiving core. We got to keep that Oregon pass rush off him. As I think you and I have both kind of discussed on our various platforms, I don't think Oregon is going to be able to consistently get pressure on Penn State bringing 4. You feel pretty confident about that?
Yeah, I would tend to agree with that. Yeah.
But ultimately, one of these little matchups folks are going to look at is how does Oregon's number 1 pass rusher, that's Mateo Uiagalelei, who is the brother of DJ, who we know from his 7 different stops playing quarterback, the FBS level. He's their number 1 guy, and he's going to move around and probably get snaps versus both Nolan Rucci and Drew Shelton. So let's talk to me a little bit about Oregon's pass rush in general, but Uiagalelei specifically.
Yeah. So
How about that? I got the word Uiagalelei out twice, but I couldn't say specifically.
Sometimes it'll get you.
I'm not even drinking this whiskey. Maybe
afterwards we'll get to it.
JP 409, shout out.
Absolutely. So you look at Oregon's pass rush, and I originally came out and I said that I didn't think that Uiagalelei was necessarily an elite pass rusher. I think he's really
the
good.
Section,
well,
by the way. We're done.
It's already over.
Section.
I already did that. I already did that on my pregame show. That was after my first kind of initial watch through the defense. I went back and I rewatched. I am now leaning towards calling him an elite pass rusher because of the moves he puts on at 6'5", 275.
And because you're traumatized by the abuse you took in the comments?
A little bit. I was fighting back on it for a little bit. But like I said, I'm borderline there. Like I said, he obviously doesn't have any type of bend like an Abdul Carter, but that's what happens when you're 6'5", 275. But the way he can move, he's got a deep pass rush tool belt is what I like to call it, where he gets into his spin moves, he gets into the jump swipes, gets into the long arms, all that type of stuff. So I think looking at this, there is a slight worry that naturally you look at Penn State and you can look at the PFF numbers. Penn State's starting offensive line has allowed 9 pressures through these first 3 easy games. All 9 came from either Drew Shelton or Nolan Rucci. Shelton went with 4 pressures. Rucci let up 5.
No, you've broken those down. You've looked at every single one of those snaps probably. All right, give me a 1 to 10 scale where 1 is not at all and 10 is like red flashing emergency lights. How worried do I have to be as a Penn State fan about those 9 pressures given up?
I'd say like a 5. I mean, none of them were like
open for a 4, but I'll take a 5.
I'll go
take a 5.
I'll go 5 just because, like I said, I'm getting higher and higher on Mateo Uyunglele as this goes on. I don't know why. Maybe it's just going against. Also, the tackles he won against were not very good, and both of these tackles are better than any tackle he has seen. Let's be clear about that as well. But it was more just kind of like
sacks on the season.
Yeah. I mean,
highest rated pass rusher according to the dreaded PFF on Oregon's roster.
Only love PFF. If the PFF fits your narrative, they're the greatest ever. If they don't, they suck.
That's why I try not to use them. But whatever. The for the bloggy gods just keep giving me PFF stats to quote. So whatever. I just parrot them back to the folks.
Just shows up and then you got to use them.
Yep.
I like I said, I gave a 5 because it seemed like it was kind of lackadaisical for Shelton at times, and even Rucci, where like it was just kind of like, oh, here we go, and then get beat.
They know they're playing Villanova, and
and there was a couple times like Shelton let up some pretty aggressive where he just got completely beat inside, and it was one of those oh crap, Rasheed Walker throw it moments, and so Rucci was never all the way like there as a. Rasheed Walker, he just had that against Myles Garrett too. Sorry to get off topic. Rasheed Walker is known for like a just complete. Anyways, Nolan Rucci, I've always been slightly worried about him in pass pro. Looked really good by the end of the year. Doesn't look as confident. Like he was so confident in his strike, in his ability to say, "Hey, I'm 6'8". I'm going to throw my hands at you." And hasn't really seen that as much this year. He kind of retreats back, kind of just gives a little bit of an opening and allows that edge to be bent on him. And we saw that against even a team like FIU or Villanova. So that's why I get a slight worry. But now it's that question of, can you step it up? Can you say, okay, we know what it is this week. You're going against a better pass rusher. You had 12 days to prepare for him. Can you come with a better plan? And so, like I said, that's why I give a 5. I think you maybe even get a chip off from time to time, slow down Mateo Uyunglele, and I think he's, for the most part, the only worry. Here come the Oregon's fans telling me that that Tatum Tuioti is the greatest thing since sliced bread. He's not that good of a pass rusher. I'll call him good, nothing above good. He's an elite run defender. But that's what you're looking at now. And real quick, Oregon's call it simulated pressure. So simulated pressure basically means they're going to have on third down, you're going to see like 6 guys up. You're going to see that double mug. That's where the 2 linebackers are in both A gaps and they're standing up like a linebacker, but they're mugged up. And then they will just bail out of it. But sometimes they will show a bunch of guys up on the line of scrimmage one way, drop all of them, and bring pressure another way. That's what simulated pressure is. So you'll see Oregon bring only 4 at the end of the day, but it's 4 from somewhere else. You bring a cornerback blitz that the offensive line doesn't even come close to seeing. And that's because I'll tell you guys that Dan Lanning comes from Nick Saban coaching tree. The defensive coordinator, Tosh Lupoy, is technically the defensive coordinator, but everything that you see on there is Dan Lanning and his brainchild. And it's impressive what they do and how they mess with the heads. I think we are going to see this Penn State offensive line is going to see things that they have not seen yet on tape. As much as Oregon is, they're more of a throw everything out there and you have to prepare for everything that we've shown. Penn State has been a little bit more vanilla and you're going to have to guess. I still think Oregon's going to come with new things. So I'm curious to see that pass rush, those blitz packages. What is Lupoy and Lanning actually going to bring on Drew Aller? But overall, I think they're going to try to obviously get some pressure on him and say, hey, can you make these throws? Can you beat us outside and over the top? We haven't seen you be overly accurate. The past only 2 out of 3 games has Drew Aller had over a 60% completion rate so far this year. Not too hot there. You can even stretch that back into the playoffs as well. But, it is going to come down to, can you stay in front of the sticks? Meaning not be in 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9, 3rd and 10. You do not want to live in those downs. That is where Lupoy and this Oregon defense thrives.
3 things can happen when you throw the football, and 2 of them are bad. So just run the ball and succeed at it, Penn State. All right. That segment kind of made me sad. So we're going to take another quick break. And on the other side, we're going to talk about the mano-a-mano matchup of Penn State versus Oregon. So stick with us.
The obligatory PSU pregame show is brought to you by Gold Hen Bloody Mary Mix. Get your bottle today by going to goldhenllc.com. Use the promo code mailman to get 10% off your order. That's me, the mailman. That's great. Thanks.
Not head coaches, Tengwall, coordinators. That's what I want to talk about because that's where the big headlines and the big money is concentrated in this matchup, okay? On one side, you've got Will Stein Kevin Horn's guy coming by way of the UTSA Roadrunners. Horn is a big Roadrunners guy. It's like his number 2 team. Toledo Rockets for me. He's a Roadrunner. And really feels like an extension of the offensive tradition that's been established since the Chip Kelly days at Oregon in terms of spreading you out, showing you multiple formations, bringing in speedy playmakers, and finding ways to create mismatches and get them in space up against Jim Knowles, a guy he faced in 2 marquee matchups with 2 very different results when Jim was at Ohio State last season. Now he's coordinating the defense for the Nittany Lions, and he's the highest paid defensive coordinator in college football. So all eyes are going to be on how that very talented, very fast Penn State D matches up against this potent, multiple Will Stein offense.
Yeah, like I said, Will Stein has put a ton of things on tape to make Penn State get ready for
a crazy amount.
A crazy amount. I mean, you have a million different things. I showcased it in my offense and Phil breakdown of Oregon. I mean, so many motions, and I talked about earlier that eye candy that you're moving around, trying to make Penn State guess what you were going to do, and really try to manipulate them into kind of playing into you're the game you're trying to set up there. And so what I've seen so far from Will Stein is, yeah, he's got a uber just talented offense. We talked about Sadiq. DeCorian Moore is just, you just reload. Like, that's what you get when you're out at Oregon, when you're at Eugene. You get to go down, get a track star from Texas as a true freshman, and he comes in, and it's not even like he's a track star one-trick pony. Like, he's going up. He's making back shoulder catches. He's making jump ball catches. It's ridiculous how you think that Oregon doesn't have the guys anymore with Tez Johnson going to the NFL. Evan Stewart's injured. It's like, oh, they might not have the guys at wide receiver. Malik Benson really comes on for them after trying his way at like 2 to 3 other schools. And then you have this young DeCorian Moore kid come on and just be explosive. Oregon also has like 7 different running backs at this point. Now they're all good. They're all good. They all can move. They're going to have their starter Whittington back for this game. Didn't really play last week, but it's going to be a chess match in terms of, I think Knowles has been very vanilla up to this point.
Yeah,
and he truly hasn't needed to. You have played 3 teams that literally don't pass the ball down the field. I don't think Villanova was capable of completing a ball more than like 10 yards. Like, it just wasn't at least against Penn State's first defense. Like,
Villanova was up here to collect a check and not get their starting quarterback killed for the rest of the season that they actually care about trying to win the game. So yeah, no.
Yeah, not at all. So you come in and now, so what is Knowles going to bring? And we know he is deep in his bag of tricks of the blitz pressures that he's going to bring. That's what he's known for. Similar, I was talking about Lupoy and how they have those simulated pressures where they show something one way and then boom, you get punched in the mouth coming the other way. That's kind of what Knowles does as well. So I'm curious to see, how is he going to bring that? What is that going to look like? And then disguising coverages. Can you mess with Dante Moore's head in the fact that, yeah, he's played in a fairly tough environment before. When he was at UCLA, he played at Utah when they were a top 15 team, I believe, back in 2023, but nothing close to a Penn State whiteout that I think has the potential to be the craziest environment ever seen in college football this weekend. How is that going to play?
Nobody sit down. Don't sit down.
Don't sit. And if you yell at someone for sitting down, shame on you. I would tell.
Sitting is for like Pitt fans. Please stop. Just stand up for 3.5 hours. If you can't do that, if you're not physically capable of standing in the stadium for like 3-4 hours, you can sit down during the TV timeouts. Like, you probably shouldn't have paid like $800 for the seat you're in. Just watch it at home. You can sit down on the couch.
Straight from the mouth of Chris Buchanani, absolutely. Yeah. And so, Dante Moore said he was gonna reach out to Bo Nix, who has played Penn State twice, but was at the whiteout in 2021. Funny enough, that Dante Moore was at the whiteout in 2021. Auburn. Yeah, he was there. As a recruit. And so he's going to reach out to him. If I'm Bo Nix, the number one thing that I would tell Dante Moore, as much as if you cannot hear, do not do this. Do not do this.
Yeah, right.
Kevin Jennings for SMU did that last year, and it makes the fans go nuts if you put your hands over your ears because you cannot hear. So that I'm curious, like, how much is the noise going to affect this Oregon offense? One thing that I would expect from Will Stein that we saw a lot in the Big Ten championship, this is something that Penn State did as well on offense. Oregon went hurry up early on, and the Penn State defense was trying to move around, and they had them a little bit starstruck right away. It was kind of like, oh crap, we're going against a real offense. These guys are quick, they're fast, and they're lining up quickly. That's a way to kind of take the air out of the stadium. If you get a quick, boom, 10-yard pass or 10-yard run, let's get up on the ball and let's go. Let's not give the fans a chance to get loud. Or if we hit it over the middle, it's 3rd and 1. Let's not take our time. And, next thing you know, we're getting a false start on 3rd and 1 to make it 3rd and 6. We hit an 8-yard gain that makes it 3rd and short. Let's get up on the ball. Let's have a play and let's go, because I don't want the crowd to be a factor. I think that's something you could see Will Stein baking into this offense this week.
I think a methodical drive takes the air out of the balloon more than a quick strike score. I mean, you don't want to see either one.
Yeah.
But slowly choking the life out of the crowd, I think, is maybe the direction you want to go if you're Oregon. I talked about the 2 matchups between Will Stein and Jim Knowles last season when Oregon faced off against Ohio State. The Ducks take it in a squeaker at Outson, but then get their doors blown off in the Rose Bowl in the playoffs. Just throw some stats at you here. Night and day difference, Landon. So this is like the rubber match for these 2 guys, because Will Stein took it decisively at Oregon. 7.6 yards per play, 10 explosive plays, only 1 negative, 0 sacks, 1 3 and out, and only 1 defensive havoc play for the Buckeyes. Then they rematch when it really matters most. In the postseason, Oregon averages just under 4 yards per play. Their season average was 6.4. They had only 5 explosives, 13 negative plays. They gave up 7 sacks, 5 3 and outs. And the Ohio State defense recorded 23 havoc plays.
23
in that Rose Bowl to 1 when they went out to play the Ducks in Eugene.
Oh my!
Just complete disaster. Now, as we all know, by that point, Jim Knowles was barely even working for Ohio State. He was even in the building. My understanding from the Ohio State fans since he left is that he basically just disappeared after that Oregon game. He was just not involved at all. Is that accurate?
I think so. I don't know what I've heard more, that it's going to take 3 years for Jim Knowles to get, somewhat competent here at Penn State, or the fact that he didn't coach, the rest of the season.
I don't know why they really wanted him to stay so badly up until the point that he got hired by Penn State. He wasn't even working there for like 6 weeks. He was already on vacation.
I'll tell you what, that is a great beef. The Ohio State Twitter sphere against Jim Knowles. My God. It's 1-to-1. It is absolutely 1-to-1. And I think Stein and Knowles, they are both big time, just like evil mad geniuses that probably stay up at night and just draw plays on whiteboards. And that's what we're going to see. And one thing I think you enter into the equation that you get now is, thanks to Michigan, thank you for cheating, you have now brought tablets onto the sideline. They've been doing that in the NFL for years. Now we have that in college football. It started last year. So before, you couldn't see any plays as they happen. You kind of have to say, hey, we'll look at the tape later. You come to the sideline after a series, and now it's, hey, grab the tablets. Let's look at what happened. So now what you have done is you have challenged coaches to see who is a better in-game coach. What adjustments can be made? Hey, guess what? That we didn't see this all the first 4 games. These are the changes we're going to make to what we're seeing now from Oregon. Can you adjust to that? Is that something that you're confident in, or your in-game coaching abilities? Because now you can see it as it happens, instead of you're just drawing it up on a whiteboard back in the day when I was playing. And now it's like, hey, let's look at actually what happened. They're going to this formation. We've never seen it. How do I counter that? And so those are the chess matches that you're going to see on Saturday night. Who can win it? Who can be the better in-game coach between Jim Knowles and Will Stein? I think that is where this game comes down to.
Okay, now as your adoring fans in Nittany Nation know, and your new fan club among the Oregon Ducks fan base is realizing, you are functionally a shut-in. You do nothing other than sit in this dark room and record these videos or watch film.
Correct.
So I want you, Landon Tengwall, scab extraordinaire, film room shut-in. Give me a name on offense for Oregon and defense for Penn State who could be the maybe under the radar, maybe just most critical game breaker in deciding this third and decisive matchup so far between Jim Knowles and Will Stein.
All right. Man, there's so many different places I could go. I've had so much fun studying this week, guys. I am going to go left tackle for Oregon, Isaiah World, versus really any Penn State defensive end. I think all 3, you can say Zariah Fisher, Chaz Coleman, or deny Dennis Sutton. So what Isaiah World has is he has a little bit of an anchor issue. He is not someone that you can beat around the edge. He has great feet. He is quick, but when he starts to deal with power moves, call that a bull rush or a long arm, when you get in his chest, the number one thing that he does is he bear hugs people. So he opens up his chest. When he goes to punch, he doesn't go like this. He goes like this and kind of reaches around. It opens up his chest. And Denai Dennis Sutton is very good at power moves. So is Zariah Fisher. I'm not going to say who, but I've talked to a couple of the defensive ends already. I've told him, like, I don't do all this work for nothing, Booch. I'm not, I self-proclaim that I'm not like a huge Penn State fan, and that I try to remain somewhat neutral, even though I just was playing for them 2 years ago. But I'll text the guys things that I see and say, hey, did you see this?
Yeah.
And have conversations. And I'm telling you, there's some certain things that I've seen from World that's like, hey, this is how you attack him. So you want to freeze his feet and then go into a power move.
Great talent.
Great talent. Very good talent.
He's been facing Mountain West competition up to this point.
That was the biggest thing, is he doesn't have, he was in the Nevada weight room. We saw what that looked like. It was not very good there. Should have saw our boy Isaiah World earlier in the year, but kicked over to Oregon for an Escalade and $1 million. And now it's like, okay, he still hasn't gotten to the level that he needs to. Like I said, there's a majority of the time looks great, but now you're going against some high level defensive ends. Once again, it's both sides that these guys have not seen anybody of their caliber. So yeah, how do you attack that? And I think, like I said, that's where you get after Dante Moore. You cannot allow what happened in the Big Ten Championship, where Dylan Gabriel had tons of time to sit back there and deliver dimes, went for 4 touchdowns, no interceptions, well over, I think, 230 yards. And it was very efficient for the Oregon passing attack. You cannot allow Dante Moore to be efficient on Saturday night. You need to disrupt him. And I think the way you do that is you do it through Isaiah World. And I'll even throw at you Harkey, their right tackle. Very different. Actually has a good base, but what he struggles is that soft edge. He drops that back foot, and sometimes he'll lean too much and then get beat around that edge. So I'm looking at both tackles that I think are both great players, but they both have little holes in their games that I think these Penn State defensive ends can exploit.
Okay, so let me modify my question just a little bit, because we talked about the defensive ends. We already talked about Tony Rojas and how he'll match up with Kenyon Sadiq in pass coverage. I love the talent and especially the speed. Man, longtime Nittany Lions fan. I am not used to seeing a ton of speed in Penn State's defensive secondary, but shout out, man, to Dex and Terry Smith. They're doing yeoman's work, creating, developing pro caliber defensive backs here in Happy Valley now. Give me a name from the Penn State secondary who you think is going to be most critical to this matchup of Penn State's defense versus the Oregon O.
See, Booch left it up to me, and I ended up just bringing it back to the offensive defensive line. What do you expect to happen? Nothing. That's what you asked me the question. I'm going to go O-line, D-line all day long. God, I mean,
games are won and lost at the line of scrimmage.
I know. But yes, I think there is an intriguing matchup of the Oregon skill group that hasn't also faced anybody good on defense, and the Penn State secondary that hasn't faced a team that passes the ball further than 5 yards down the field.
Watching the tape of them versus Oklahoma State was basically like watching their offense go against air.
It was that was
Shout
ridiculous.
out poor Mike Gundy.
Yeah,
really
sayonara, Mike Gundy. It was a okay time, I guess. So yes, it's very interesting. You got AJ Harris, who's thought to be this elite cornerback, very well could be, hasn't fully been tested yet this year. Now, can he take that that full next step? Has a great day Saturday night. Probably solidifies himself as maybe even a round 1 cornerback. That's a real thing.
DeCorian Moore, you think? If you had to predict,
I think it's too difficult to follow DeCorian Moore because of the way the Oregon offense moves him around. They brought him on a jet motion some games 6-7 times, and you can't all the way do that. But I honestly feel good about Davian Collins and Elliott Washington. Davian Collins ran a 4.29. He is a sub 4.3 guy. I've had NFL GMs raving about him because you love speed. Well, now's the time to have some speed at cornerback if you are Penn State. Elliott Washington, also a 4.3 guy. So you got some cornerbacks. You got the horses back there to stick on these wide receivers. AJ Harris, it's probably the slowest of the 3, but obviously I think has some of the best technique there. Davian Collins has been really impressive to me, as I said, but you haven't seen anything. If you're thinking to yourself, I haven't really even heard the name Elliott Washington, Davian Collins, or AJ Harris. Yeah, because no one has passed the ball yet on Penn State because they can't. So such a matchup here, and this is why I say I think we're going to learn so much. You can now learn about the Penn State secondary. It's going to be a hell of a matchup between Malik Benson, and then you got Moore, and then how are you combating that? What type of coverages are you playing? Are you disguising if you're Jim Knowles? Is it going to put a strain on this Penn State secondary now that you're playing speed and you want to add in the equation of doing these kind of more elaborate coverages? Because if you start to play with things and you have some speed, then it can get dangerous. And that goes back, I'm offensive lineman. You go back into the pass rush. If you give speed time, not good. Not good at all. So I've never been more excited. I truly have not been more excited for a game and the matchups within the game in so long, just because we don't really know. And it's going to be so fun to figure all of this out.
Yes, and this was supposed to be like 15 minutes long. I don't have a clock running. I know we stretched it longer than that, but the whole point was help you all kill some time until Penn State kicks it off. So we hope you enjoyed it. Little bonus obligatory here in Tengwall's territory. I do want to say one last thing. Look, Tyler Warren, okay, is an absolute stud. All right, that guy is a legend. He is a terrific athlete. He deserves every plaudit he has received. He deserved to have been drafted 13th and frankly higher, shout out Ryan Poles in Chicago in the NFL draft. And that's okay. It doesn't mean that Kenyon Sadiq is also not a great tight end. So please, folks, stop embarrassing yourselves. You sound like the Boise State fans last year who got up in my grill, face, junk, whatever, because I had the temerity to say that, what's his name? What was that running back's name?
Ashton Jeanty.
Ashton Jeanty. Thank you. I said Ashton Jeanty was a great back, the best back in college football, but he was not as good as Barry Sanders. And they took it like I had just insulted their mothers. So just cool it down a little bit. Tyler Warren's great. Kenyon Sadiq is great. It's okay. It's all good. Tengwall, been a pleasure.
Thank you so much, Booch.
No paywall, just Tengwall. Take care of yourselves and each other. Go State, beat Oregon. We are.